Coming up next on City Corner, we talk about the new and exciting things happening in the St. Louis Public Schools. Please stay tuned. Welcome to City Corner. I'm your host, Melanie Adams. Today, we're talking about the St. Louis Public Schools as they prepare to open on Monday, August 13th. Joining me now is Superintendent Dr. Kelvin Adams. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I think we can't say it enough. School opens on Monday, August 13th.
Yes, we look forward to some 25,000 students coming back to some 77 buildings on Monday, August the 13th, and we are really excited and are looking forward to this school year.
Well, I think, before we look at the upcoming school year, I think a lot of exciting things have happened in St. Louis Public School this past school year, and we have a few images of those. The first one being we had a visit from the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan. So can you talk a little bit about why he was here, why St. Louis?
This is the second visit for Secretary Arne Duncan. He visited basically because he wanted to get an update on what was going on in our 11 school improvement schools called SIG schools. The federal government has provided some $15 million over a 3-year period of time to improve 7 of our lowest achieving schools, and he's heard some of the positive things that have been going on. We visited Washington, D.C. to give a presentation, and so he was here to receive an award for Harvard, for playing basketball at Harvard, and he chose to come to one of our schools, Vashon High School, to see about the kind of positive things that were going on, in addition to looking at some of the kind of nutritional kind of things that were going on in our schools as well, because we've been kind of recognized for those things as well locally.
Right. Now, it seems like, at least in my memory, we normally don't have the Secretary of Education visiting on such a regular basis.
I think he has been kind of excited about some of the things that are happening in St. Louis, and sees an urban district really taking hold of it and being responsible for some of the kind of work that needs to take place. So I think he's been kind of excited about the kind of things that are happening in St. Louis.
Well, I think that's good, because then it helps to put St. Louis on the national spotlight, or at least looking at seeing that we're improving.
That is correct, and so he provided information to us relative to the waiver that Missouri just received, in addition to giving us some information about the possibilities of the Race to the Top dollars being locally focused on districts like St. Louis moving forward. So we were really excited to have him here and look forward to some other collaborations with the Secretary of Education in terms of what can further happen around dollars to support the city.
Right, and one of the important things I'm sure he's concerned about, as well as the district, is graduation. I think we have some great images of some young people who have graduated recently from St. Louis Public Schools, and I think 2 of them in particular. One was going to West Point, which is a huge honor.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Basically, a student applied and was selected to attend West Point. We've had students who have applied before and not been as successful in terms of doing that. We've had some 1,700 students graduate this year, 1,800 last school year, and we're really proud of the fact that some $23 million have been garnered for students to attend colleges and universities across the nation. West Point happens to be one, but many of our students have also applied to Ivy League schools, Harvard and Yale, and been accepted to those schools as well.
Right, and I think one of the things is, even though the district is not accredited, but is very close, all of our high schools are accredited through a specific agency, and I'm blanking on the name right now.
It was called North Central. Okay. The name has changed at this point in time, but McKinley School was the last school to receive the high school accreditation, because McKinley School just became a high school some 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
But at this point in time, all of our schools are accredited high schools.
Great. Well, as you're going into your 3rd year as superintendent, it is your 3rd, correct?
Yes,
yes,
correct.
Your 3rd year. I know, time seems to fly. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, what have been the big changes you've seen since you've been here at the district? Interesting
you asked that question in a conversation with our council today. I think one of the biggest changes that has occurred has been attitude. And I think it's very difficult to kind of put your finger on that, but I think there's a new vigor, if you will, around what needs to happen right for kids in this district, and I think that's extremely important. While you can't put a dollar figure on it, I think there's a real belief that young people in the city of St. Louis who attend the schools in the St. Louis Public Schools can and will do better. And I think that's a real difference in terms of what it was when we got here, and the whole notion of accountability as well. I think everybody understands that you have to be accountable for results for kids, not for effort, but for results. And so I think those are I think that that kind of mindset is different. Obviously, we've closed some schools and created new schools and changed principals, and the test scores are up, attendance is up. All of the indicators that are positive indicators about the school district are really well. The business community has supported the district. In a meeting we had this morning with the business community, they're leveraged around continuing to support the district. So I think it's a different kind of mindset. The indicators that show that schools are doing well, we are moving in the right direction. Attendance, graduation rate, all of those things are positive. We'll get scores back in the next week, and knock on wood, to your point, we believe that we are in a better position than we were 4 or 5 years ago, and we believe that the district is really close to regaining accreditation.
Right, and I think, you know, we're all hoping for that accreditation. We don't want to jinx it, so we're going to wait until we get the final numbers. But I think it's also great that you said that the community is really starting to rally behind the district again, because I know that's really an important factor, whereas your staff, teachers, all of your administrative staff can only do so much, but you really need the help from the community. And I think one of the great things that you've instituted since you've been here has been the Memorandum of Understanding, because I think that really helps organizations know how they can assist the district. Can you talk a little bit about that?
3 years ago, the board gave me the charge to go and to look to see how we could leverage communities in a much more focused and succinct way. So the Office of Innovation, Institutional Advancement was created. As a result of that, we started to have conversations with our partners and made a requirement that every single partner had to have a memorandum of understanding that was reviewed by council, was reviewed by our offices, and approved by the board. That set some parameters about what was expected from us, what was expected from them. Now we're going back and evaluating those memorandum of understandings to determine if we want to renew them for a second or a third year. Some we have decided to do so, and some we've decided not to, because either we weren't able to meet the requirements in the memorandum of understanding, or they were not. So I think it's a real opportunity for us to galvanize the community in a real focused, documented way.
Right. And I think we have a few more photos that we're going to show, talking a little bit more about the district. And I think these two are right. These were the two that we had mentioned. This is a young man that's going to West Point.
That's correct.
And then I think our other two are National Merit Scholars.
Yes, I think those are two students from Metro,
right.
Who are National Merit Scholars, and the other student was from Cleveland, JROTC, and really proud of both of those schools. Really small schools with populations between 300 and 400, but schools that are really focused around student achievement and also giving students a well-rounded public education.
Well, and I think that's a really interesting segue, because I know one of the questions I'm sure you always get is, why can't every school be Metro? Everyone wants to be Metro. But I think looking at one of the programs or things that you're really emphasizing this year moving forward is early childhood.
Yes.
And that really is a way to make every school a Metro, is by investing in that early childhood. So can you talk a little bit about why you felt it was really important to invest in our youngest students?
We felt it was extremely important because we know that the foundation is a great equalizer for kids. If kids could have an opportunity to start out with the kind of support that they need to have, and in ages 3 and 4, those students we know will do well academically. The research is really, really clear around that piece. As a matter of fact, prisons are built based on the 4th grade test scores or reading scores of students. And so we want to give students a really firm foundation, and we believe that that firm foundation must take place in a documented, well-supported early childhood environment, and that's why we expanded from some 1,200 students to some 2,300 students at a cost of anywhere from $3 to $5 million over the last year. We're expected to do the same thing this year because we know that that foundation is important, and we don't have to spend the dollars later on to provide remediation to kids. We're working with a consultant right now to help us better develop an evaluation tool to determine how students are doing, such that we could also leverage the community and grants, around getting grants and applying for other dollars to support early child education is just that critical. I think it's the great equalizer in the city of St. Louis.
Right. And one of the things that people don't realize, the district doesn't get reimbursed for early childhood. At what age does the district start getting reimbursed for children?
The district starts to get reimbursed for children at age 5 in kindergarten, but anything before that, except if children are special needs students, the district does not get any reimbursement. So the cost to do this is about $3 to $5 million for that to occur. We use our title dollars, and we're using some desegregation dollars that the plaintiffs allowed us to use to do that, and expand it by, as I said before, 12,000 kids, an additional 25 classrooms, in addition to some of our benefactors, some of the persons in the community provided additional dollars to seed us in terms of creating those kind of classes. Some $250,000 was provided for that. So I think the community realizes just how important it is. One of the questions that was asked for Ernie Duncan is what could be done to support public education in St. Louis, and one of the first things he said was support early childhood education. That's just how critical it is from the national level, and obviously from the local level as well.
Which is so interesting, because you want to say if it's so critical, pay us for 3- and 4-year-olds, but
the state says it's a challenge for them to do that. They obviously have cut our budget by some $3 million this year, and so it's a real challenge for the state to do that. But to your point, I think this state and most states around the country have to make some really hard choices, and I think early child education is one of the ways that they need to decide to support public education.
Right, and I think, you know, you hit it on the head when you said, it makes more sense for the district to pay $3 to $5 million now than to pay it down the road in remedial and other issues. And I
think it's critical for us to do that. I think once we get that foundation for young people, it's much harder for them to lose the kind of foundation that they've had. And so even if they have a teacher that is not very supportive in grades 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. If they have that foundation, it's much easier for them to catch up later on.
Right.
So we want to make sure that every young person comes with the ability to learn emotionally. We are working with a criteria from Kansas City and from the state to determine how those kids are doing academically as well.
And again, just make sure students should be in school on Monday, August 13th.
We're really excited. We are working on getting our buildings prepared, and we look forward to the 12-13 school year.
Well, and coming up next on City Corner, we're going to talk a little bit about these new things happening in the St. Louis Public Schools, from updating the facilities as well as the new iPad program. So please stay tuned. Welcome back to City Corner. Today we're talking about the St. Louis Public Schools as they prepare to open their doors on Monday, August 13th. Joining me now, we have 2 staff members who will be talking a little bit about the new things that will be happening in the district around both operations and programs. First, we have Roger Casey, Executive Director of Operations, and then Mary Houlihan, Deputy Superintendent of Operations. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. We're going to start off with the buildings and the facilities and talking a little bit about what new things students and their families can expect to see. And I think we have a few images that will be rolling along as we're talking. But first, just remind the community how we're paying for all of these new additions and things that are happening in the school.
Well, we were very fortunate in August of 2010 that the citizens approved Prop S, which was a $155 million bond issue. So that has allowed us to do a lot of very interesting and positive and well-needed projects throughout the district.
Right, and it sounds like a lot of money, $155 million. But how closer is the district to spending it? What types of projects has the district been doing to spend the money?
Well, a lot of the projects we've been doing has been varied. We have what we call building envelopes, which is not as the most attractive projects. It's like doing roof, tuck pointing, waterproofing, but those are very important. You have to secure the exterior of the building before we can do the interior of the building. We also have been doing playgrounds or playscapes equipment. We're going to do playground.
Right. And I think we should have some images of both the interior of the building and some of those playscapes coming up.
Grace, and we're doing science labs at our high schools, very, very beautiful and very up-to-date science labs. We're also doing safety upgrades. Dr. Adams had talked about early childhood. We also had to do lead abatement.
Right. And I think we have, here's one of our playgrounds.
Yes, that's one of our playscapes, playground equipment that we have.
Playscape must be the new fancy
That's
word.
the new fancy word.
Okay.
That's what they call the playscapes.
For us older people, it's playground. And then this is one of our cafeterias.
Yeah, cafeteria renovations, and also this is one of our science labs that we've done.
Right. And I think it's really important to see kind of the academic rooms as well, because I think people so often just think, oh, they're just repairing the roof or putting in new shades, but really seeing the academic improvements that are being made in the classroom, so then students can do science projects, biology projects, because they have an updated science room now.
Yes. It is our goal to make sure that our classroom are conducive to learning, where our children can learn and our teachers can teach. And that's the goal of the Prop S, and throughout the district we're trying to make our classrooms conducive to learning.
Right. And I think, you know, one of the things, talking a little bit about the iPad project, because I think that's another way that we're making our classrooms kind of conducive to learning. Can you talk a little bit about how the iPad project came about and how you see it working within the district?
Certainly. We had the opportunity through the DSEG funding that we got last year to embark on new technology, and it was a priority of that group. And one of the things we decided to do was to expand the ability for children to have one-to-one computing abilities, which is what an iPad provides, is the ability for the student to actually learn on their own and use the device on their own. And so
I think we have some images. Are this summer school kids, I think, who were using it? Yes.
We were using it in some of our summer school programs this year. This is another image that's probably at Man. We went over and took some photos there. And the one thing we're finding well, a number of things we're finding. One is that it's a very collaborative device, and if you've noticed the pictures, there's more than one student using it at a time, which I think when you think one-to-one, it's going to be one student with a piece of equipment, but it really turns out to be they use it together, so there's a lot more collaboration. We've spent the past several months really with a lot of professional development for the teachers so that they get comfortable using the iPad and understanding how to integrate it into their lesson plans, because the iPad doesn't replace anything the teacher's doing. Right. It just provides another tool for the teacher to use in the classroom. The iPad itself has, I think Apple in their store, their app store has over 20,000 educational apps. Oh my God. So when you look at the availability of learning materials and different types of lessons that students, they can be individualized so the students can get exactly what they need at any particular time. It gives the teacher freedom to allow one student to be working on one thing while they're working with other students on another set of objectives. So it's really an additional tool that we feel will help the teachers also get to know their students better, and also give just extra materials and extra instruction for those students.
Well, and one of the things, in order to be able to have iPads in the classroom, we need to have the technology. So are all of the buildings wireless now? Is that part of Prop S, or is that something, E-rate, something different?
Well, a combination of using Prop S dollars and also E-rate.
Okay.
We put computer labs in all of our schools. Also make sure that we had the electrical infrastructure to make sure that we can do that. Wireless is part of that also. So we've taken a lot of pots of money and put it and combined it together to get more bang for our buck.
Right, because I was, because one of the issues that I remember coming up, because of the buildings were sold, it was very hard to get the technology into them. It was it wasn't hard, it was very expensive. Let me put it that way.
And I was just going to say, to add to that, we do have a project that we're requesting funding, E-rate funding for next year, to actually replace our entire network throughout the district. And that project would also, while we have wireless in every building, you need an ability to have dense wireless. There are these different types of wireless, but we have access, but we don't necessarily have dense access. So that project will be able to allow, if we were to expand this initiative and have iPads throughout the district, that the technology would be able to support that.
Right. And right now, the iPad program is specifically for third graders.
Yes, we decided to start with third grade because we feel third grade is a critical year for learning to read. And we really, if students don't know how to read after the third grade, it's definitely that's the year that we really want to make sure that we make an impact on students. So we had limited dollars, and we decided to focus them on the third grade.
Right. And I think, and even looking at, again, a lot of what we're talking about are those early years, but I know there are also some exciting things, and we don't have any images, but of Beaumont. I think I saw some images before, but there are some exciting things happening at Beaumont and the new career tech program that's going in there.
Yes, in the career tech, we've put some new programs in. One is cosmetology.
Right. I think I saw all of the sinks.
Yeah, they have the sinks
Yes.
and the stations. We're also going to be putting in a culinary kitchen. So there's going to be culinary cooking and teaching over in that area. I mean, so there's really a lot of exciting type of things besides the mundane parts but also we're having some very exciting projects as those, and again, putting in early childhood education classes. We're putting new furniture in. We're putting outdoor classrooms for early childhood education. We're also putting big playgrounds for the big kids, but also we're putting playgrounds also for the pre-K kids.
And that's an interesting distinction, because I guess we never think about, you have to kind of retrofit the classrooms as you start adding all of these preschoolers.
Yes.
So they need a very different type of classroom than you would for a first, second, third grader, as well as a very different type of playground.
And also would like to say that also we're doing a lot with ADA. We're also making sure that all of our schools are accessible, making sure that even our playgrounds and playscapes also are accessible. So we're doing a lot with that also.
Right. Well, I think that accessibility then is also, again, carries over to the iPad project, because I think it really helps students depending upon how you learn. But some of the, one of the questions I had, especially after you were able to pilot it over the summer, how did families receive it? Because was it hard because families were thinking like, oh, well, how do I help them at home if we don't have an iPad? What can I do at home to help my child without that type of technology?
I think, and I haven't talked to a large number of parents, but I think parents are pleased to see that kind of technology in the schools, that their children will have access to cutting edge technology, the things that they're going to need when they go out into careers and move forward in their education, that it's just part of the world now, and for them to get access to that in the third grade and be able to explore the internet and use apps and be able to use that technology, it will give them an advantage and an edge as they move forward. So I think it's really important.
And while while no one teaches to the test, at the same time, all of these tests are moving online.
Yes,
and
they
so
are.
You need to have some type of familiarity with working on a computer in order to at least be able to understand how to do the test.
Yes, yes, and we are, as part of the Prop S funding, every school will have a fully functioning computer lab, and a lot of that's being put in place also for testing, because all of the tests are moving online. So that is part of the initiative also.
Right. Well, and as we get all of this new technology and as we upgrade our buildings, what is the district doing so 3 to 5 years we have the money to continue to do this? Because I think part of the issue with the facilities was there was never a rainy day fund.
Yes.
And so that's why we needed to continue upgrading the buildings. And so now that you have them at a place where you want them to be or close to it, how are you going to make sure that you're able to upkeep the buildings?
Well, there's two things. First of all, I want to say that we have over $300 million worth of needs.
Oh, so you're like, so there's more, okay.
So we only have $155 million,
Oh,
so
okay.
we're still that way. But another thing we're doing was also we're putting in what we call preventive maintenance.
Okay.
We have to make sure that we put procedures in place to take care of what we put in, and that means we have to hire the trained staff. I mean, we've air conditioned a lot of our buildings, so also we have to get the technicians to maintain and to do that preventive maintenance. You can't just put it in and then just let it run and then replace it. So there are some other type of things. Training. Not only do we have professional development for our teaching staff, but also we have to provide professional development for our support staff to take care of what we're putting in.
And then on the technology side, so I think as we were talking earlier, it seems like a new iPad comes out every 6 months.
Right.
So what will the district be doing to make sure it's remaining current around issues of technology without spending millions of dollars every year?
I think it's important to look at, do we need to do the upgrades to the new technology, or is it sufficient to use the existing technology? For example, a new iPad has come out, and we're actually going to be buying the iPad 2s, which are a little bit less expensive but have basically the same capabilities. And we have the same challenges with all of our computer equipment now, is how long can you maintain it with the existing support structure. So it's just making wise decisions around how we do our investment, and then making sure that we constantly evaluate and upgrade where appropriate to do that.
Right. Well, I think there are some new and exciting things happening in St. Louis Public Schools. They've been happening, I think, since the 3 years since Dr. Adams has come on board. And these are just two more examples. I mean, we could have had 10 to 12 different programs here, I think, today in terms of what new and exciting things are happening in the district, from the nutrition programs to the curriculum. And so, again, we just want to emphasize kids need to be at school on Monday, August 13th. We can't say that date enough.
Yes.
And I think there will be some other opportunities, some church visits, and some other ways that the district will be getting the word out there. But for today, I just wanted to thank you for joining us here today on City Corner. I think you've provided some great information for our students and their families. And we'd also like to thank Dr. Adams, and see you next time on City Corner. Thank you.
Thank you.